I feel like the goal, it's like a unconscious and sometimes conscious goal that I have is like, I want people to wake up, and that can mean different things. Like perhaps it's this like feeling we're on an ascension process. Like it's of benefit to all of us to sort of raise our frequency, raise our vibration. And so it feels kind of like an obligation to try to elevate people. And, like presenting scientific facts or presenting like whatever, like doesn't seem to do that. So I kind of have this, like, is it the best just to like be happy and peaceful and loving myself and just like lead by example, or is there something else I could be doing outwardly that would help the whole process?
I think there's both, honestly. I contemplate this a lot too. Like the I once did an episode last year on like the difference between like how to balance acceptance and activism. How do you go out and seek to actually make real change and do things? Because there are things you can do in the world to make change. But there's also a level, I think, to be happy and to raise your own vibration of acceptance, so that it's kind of this weird thing. And I think for me, that comes with, before I share something, to check in with myself and ask what energy I'm doing this from. Is it from a place of inspiration? Like that, when I'm inspired, like usually I differentiate even when working on my goals through, okay, am I doing this based on fear or inspiration? And so those are the two kind of balancing points, but it can also be like this charge of anger through a share, like, oh my God, this meme hits the nail on the head, must share to everybody, like, is it that, or is it like, or is it a calmer energy of like, yes, this is going to flow through me and I'm going to multiply it in a way. And so checking in with myself on what energy I am sharing from is the first part. And then the other part is, what am I expecting from this? Am I doing it without expectations? Am I doing it out of love? Like, or am I expecting people to read this and be like, oh my God, the last 2 years, everything I've believed is just gone. Thanks for this meme, Melissa. Like, I'm on the whole other side. Like, that's just not going to happen. And so, and I think anyone can feel an expectation put on them by what you're sharing, or if you're doing it from like this ego place of like kind of a smug share of like calling the other side stupid. Like there's a lot to kind of check in with. And now the more, it used to take me minutes per post, like, okay, is this okay? But now I'm like, all right, I know where this is coming from. I'm going to pass. And that alone is a skill, to be able to scroll past something that fires you up. Like that is another piece of my motivation. Am I strengthening a neural pathway of impulsiveness and of the ego side of me? Or am I practicing letting go, just as I do in meditation, where yes, a triggering thought comes, or a thought that seems to need action comes, and I let it float by. So they're both kind of one and the same practices.
So you really do this, you really check in with yourself before.
If you've seen the phases I've gone through of not doing that, then yeah. Like, in order to have not overwhelmed or lost a ton of followers or whatever, like I've gone through waves of the last 2 years of what I'm sharing for, like yeah, really thinking that I was changing things in a specific way and realizing I wasn't, and yeah, having to kind of revert course. But especially since I've had a baby, I have like little bits of anxiety for the first time. And you can't really tell it's happening from the outside, but all of a sudden I'll be sitting there and it's like reality is too loud. And I'm like, oh, this is anxiety, I think. And a lot of it was because of the circumstances that are happening in the world, and like, what is the world going to be like for my baby? And I know that I create a reality based on what I believe. And so while I was in a way like the ego side of me thinking I was changing other people's beliefs, really I'm actually strengthening beliefs for a crazy, dark, dystopian world that might come to fruition. So that wasn't helping anybody. So yes, now I do really check in with myself, or I have apps on my phone to block other apps. I have times where I like there's this app called Opal that during specific times that I know that I fall into like a scrolling pattern, it just blocks all of those apps. And so I open them and it won't load new content. And I'm like, and,
Oh,
and I'm like,
wow.
why won't this load? Oh yeah, your higher self set this in motion for you. Put the phone down, go do something better.
So you've got interesting like fail-safe systems you put into your thinking and your phone and like different practices to like keep you from bouncing off too far to some extreme, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, I am an extreme personality. I always have been. It's what's gotten me into a lot of trouble, and it's what's brought a lot of great things into my life. So I know I need to manage my impulses. And there's a time to practice just not acting, and then there's a time to have the backup plan. Example, stupid example. I I used to have a pretty bad eating disorder. I was bulimic for over 10 years. And so I know that there's still those neural pathways, even though I've been on that healing journey for a really long time. But I have to have the mindfulness techniques in place. But my one weakness is still chocolate. And 90% of the time, yes, I can have a piece of chocolate and let it sit. But that 10% of the time, I will eat 3 packets of the Trader Joe's sunflower buttercups because they are amazing. And so every week when I go down the mountain for my yoga class, I go to Trader Joe's, stock up for groceries, bring it back up the mountain. And I have a buttercup for every single day. And I give them to my husband and he hides them and he rations them to me 1 per day only. And there was one time I found the hiding spot and it was one of those weekdays and I ended up eating 3 packets of the buttercups. And so sometimes the hiding place changes. It's like a really big, like it's a thing in our household. Like, I'm like, can you just get the chocolate
Is that
clear?
even worth it though? Like, I mean,
I think my
what
husband
would
kind of likes
happen
the power a little.
if you just like ate all of them, but ate them all the day you bought them and then just didn't have any for the rest of the time?
Self-loathing spiral. So there's still things that are connected. And one day I hope to get there. And I thought I was, and then the buttercup binge happened. And then I had the spiral. It brought up other feelings. Like for me, it's kind of like if you, food is such an interesting one because if I was addicted to alcohol, you just don't keep alcohol in the house, right? But do you have the bottle of gin right there and you're like, well, whatever. If I end up having a sip and I drink the whole bottle, it's just one slip up. Like people don't think that way when it comes to those things. And because it's food and it's still something that we need to survive, it's like for a long time, I cut out all of the trigger things. But then what kind of life is that? I need a buttercup every now and then. And so now, it is worth it. And also I think my husband likes the power a little bit. That's the one thing I give him power over. He's like, have you been good? And I'm like, yes. Buttercup, please.
That seems like something you could work into the bedroom,
Yeah, right. I mean, whatever works. I do sometimes have to seduce him for it. So
Hey friend, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this particular clip, then I have something else I want to tell you about, which is the League of Superconductors. It's a business mastermind that I run to elevate the greatest change makers of our time. That is people that I like to call quantum entrepreneurs, metaphysical, spiritual teachers, healers, coaches, light workers of different types. And this is a year-long business mastermind starting in May of 2022. So if that's the type of thing that you're looking for, if you're looking to better fuel your mission by having a business that brings in all the abundance you're looking for, that both operates at the 3D level, serving the people of Earth, and at a multi-dimensional level, bringing in all of the higher wisdom and experience that you have access to, that's what we're doing. So if that sounds like something for you, then you can check out the link below, read a little bit more about the program, what we do each month. And I also invite you to apply for a call with me, a strategy session we can get to know each other. I'll coach you a little bit, and you can decide if that might be the exact thing that you've been looking for. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.